I am here with the mayor-elect of New York City, Zohran Mamdani. Congratulations. Thanks for coming in.
Thank you very much for having me.
You broke a lot of new ground last night. First Muslim mayor of New York, first Democratic Socialist, first mayor to win more than 1 million votes in, 3 decades, youngest mayor in more than a century. So what is the message and the mandate behind that?
The message is about transforming the most expensive city in the United States of America into one that's affordable for each and every New Yorker. And what New Yorkers across the 5 boroughs gave us last night was a mandate to pursue the most ambitious affordability agenda the city has seen since the days of Fiorello LaGuardia. And it's time that we start to deliver it.
Well, let's dig into that, because you're talking about a rent freeze, you're talking about free buses, you're talking about free childcare. Can you do that without raising taxes?
Before he answers that question, go ahead and hit the subscribe button, like button, and all the good stuff. Leave a couple comments on your thoughts and opinions. I kind of waited a little bit to address this because I wanted to kind of let everyone else kind of get their ideas out and flush it all out, and then I can kind of take a beat and really reflect on what this means for, in my opinion, the political landscape in America. Uh, so that's why I kind of didn't jump on it. I think this is I think for for American politics, one, give him credit for what he's been able to achieve. That definitely historic on all the fronts. If you're a millennial and younger, I don't think this comes as a surprise to you. I think it comes more as a you can exhale now, like kind of take a deep breath. You know, not even if you don't live in New York. Not that he's going to fix everything, because I don't believe he will. I believe there will be roadblocks, and they will, the the powerful will do what they can to make it difficult for him. It kind of maybe reminiscent of the Obama administration, to be honest. And I think so everyone's painting this picture like New York is kind of going off the deep end now and going to go down in flames. I just don't believe that. I believe when I see it. It's just too important to the world to go away. Will it change? Absolutely. Clearly, he's strikes me as a guy who's kind of free of corruption, which is not easy to say for anyone in politics. But I would say he doesn't seem like he has those ties or grips on him. So, which is nice. I think that restores some faith in the younger generation. I think you'll start to see a lot more of Mandanis, if you will, pop up around different states in the political scene, just because, let's face it, both sides, Democrats and Republicans, have failed. They failed us. I mean, millennials and Generation Z, we've seen nothing uh, in our lifetime that gives us hope that when it comes to fighting for economic security. We've a lot of us lived through like Y2K. A lot of us remember the .com. We weren't old enough, but we do remember it. We were growing up around that time. It was definitely talked about, especially if you grew up in the Bay Area. And then you had the great financial crisis of 2008. Again, I wasn't old enough to buy a house, but I have friends and family who did, and saw that kind of implode. And we are where we are today, 2011. Just all these things that just keep
I
popping
think
up.
you can do that, and I think you have
Sorry.
to raise taxes on the top 1%.
All these things that keep popping up, and so I think this is a ripe environment for someone like a Mandani, because it's something different, and he's coming. I don't know how he's going to do it, to be honest with you, but at least he's talking about it, I guess, and he's calling the spades, calling balls and strikes, and I think that is appreciated. And we'll see what happens. Give him a shot, but I don't think there's going to be. I think there will be people that leave New York for sure, but again, it's too important of a city to go under. But I will say, as a landlord, some of the things is a little concerning, because know there's small mom and pop landlords, like myself in New York, who, when you talk about rent freeze, that's lifeline. And I've never liked this idea that landlords and tenants are, you know, cat and dog, and we're just so opposed to each other. I hate that narrative. We actually need each other. It's a symbiotic relationship. And most good landlords actually don't want you to be a tenant forever. They want you to actually like go buy your house, and maybe you buy a rental property or something like that. I know I do. I want that for my tenants. It's a cycle that most of us sophisticated investors understand. So without going into that, let's go ahead and see what else he has to say. Don't forget to hit the like button. Please subscribe.
Percent of New Yorkers who make more than $1 million a year, and you do that by raising taxes by them 2%. And then you also increase the corporate tax of New York State to match that of New Jersey. So that takes us from about 7.25 to about 11.5%, which is what we see in New Jersey. These things together raise about $9 billion, which more than pays for our economic agenda and also starts to Trump-proof our state.
But are you worried that could drive a lot of job creators out of New York?
So what I've heard from a number of business leaders is that the affordability crisis is also affecting their ability to attract and retain talent. The city's inability to provide childcare means that businesses often have to provide stipends for that childcare. Right now, the absence of universal childcare means that a family will pay around $22,500 a year, which is more money than many of them would spend if they sent that same kid to college 18 years later. And it is time for city government to actually step up to the responsibility that it has.
Not just the city government, that kind of a tax increase is going to require the state as well, including the governor, Kathy Hochul. Is she on board?
I'm proud to have Governor Kathy Hochul's endorsement and the endorsement of our agenda, specifically universal childcare. And I've said time and again, I think these are the two most direct and straightforward ways to raise this revenue. If there are other ways to raise this funds, the most important thing is that we actually fund this agenda.
You said that President Trump was watching you last night. It appears that he was.
I actually don't think that's a bad idea. I mean, I could agree with that on some level. I know here in Georgia they have the what is it? The pre-K, where once your kid gets into pre-K, it's free. Fantastic program. It works fine, and Georgia is a very you know uh, capitalistic, a lot of policies and stuff like that. And that's been a program that you will see all income classes benefit from that. So that's a good, we no brainer there.
Watching you. And it also appears that he and other Republicans are trying to make you the poster boy of the Democratic Party. Mike Johnson, the Speaker of the House, calls you a true extremist and a Marxist. And he says now every House Democrat incumbent and candidate will co-own Mamdani's disastrous record in the 2026 midterms. How do you respond to that?
Well, I'm looking forward to showing the power of an example here in New York City, an example of what it means to not just diagnose the despair in working people's lives as the cost of living crisis, but to deliver on it. And that's the contrast between myself and President Trump. He's someone who ran an entire presidential campaign on the promise of cheaper groceries and is now, as the president, making it harder for Americans to afford those groceries by cutting SNAP benefits.
You worried he's going to crack down on New York City, maybe even do what he's done and tried to do in Portland and other cities, call the National Guard in?
I think that his threats are inevitable. I also know that it's time we actually call this for what it is. This has nothing to do with safety. It has to do with intimidation. If it was safety, President Trump would be threatening to deploy the National Guard to the top 10 states of crime, 8 out of which are all Republican-led, but because of that party, he won't actually be doing so.
So you say you won't be intimidated. How do you stand up to it?
I think there's a number of ways. The first thing is you actually utilize the courts. You stop treating things as being law just by virtue of the fact that President Trump is saying them. You can look at the example of California, where you find the Attorney General, the Governor, and the Mayor of LA coming together, filing a lawsuit in opposition to the deployment of the National Guard. A federal judge found in their favor, and the Attorney General estimated that for every dollar they spent, they recovered more than $30,000 in funds that would have otherwise been seized by the federal government.
How about crime? Have you convinced Commissioner Tisch to stay on the police commissioner?
I've made my decision to retain Commissioner Tisch, and I've done so because Eric Adams had stacked the upper echelons of the NYPD with incompetence and corruption. She came in, started to tackle that, deliver accountability, and reduce crime across the 5 boroughs. That is what we would build upon under a Mamdani administration, in addition to creating a Department of Community Safety to tackle the mental health and homelessness crisis head on.
You've made your decision. Has she made hers?
I am looking forward to continue to having conversations with her and to assembling a government of the best and the brightest to deliver on this agenda.
Last night you also said you wanted to reach out to New York.
He's polished. He is polished. I will tell you this: if he's able to deliver on what he says he can do, even if he does 50% on what he said he would do, that's going to be an improvement, right? That's going to affect people. It maybe is. I don't know. This could be good. We'll see.
Yorkers who didn't vote for you. Probably highest on that list is Jewish New Yorkers. It looks like there was about a 30-point gap, according to the exit polls, between you and former Governor Cuomo. How do you convince those voters that your vision of New York includes them and your victory is not a threat to them?
I was on the M57 not too long ago, which is the slowest bus in New York City, 4.9 miles an hour. And I was seated next to a woman who introduced herself to me as a speech therapist. And she told me that she was Jewish, and she said that her daughter is a huge fan and phone banks from college, and that she wasn't so sure. And I asked her to share, and she shared her thoughts about what it also means to be Jewish in New York City today, and the scourge of anti-Semitism that often worries her, that she was trying to sell her apartment. A realtor told her to put away, in her words, the Jewish books on her bookshelf. And I told her that this was unacceptable, that we were fighting for a city that didn't just protect Jewish New Yorkers, but celebrated and cherished those same New Yorkers. And I'm looking forward to being the mayor for every single person that calls the city home, and showing that my job is not to remake City Hall in my image, but rather in the image of struggling New Yorkers. And that means New Yorkers will find themselves and their struggles in people who have decision-making power across my administration.
You said a lot of that during the campaign, but it didn't.
See, excuse me. You see, that's it. That's exactly it. Everything, tie it back to the economy and how it's going to benefit you. I'm not going to even say anything else.
Seem to work with this group of voters. What more can you do now?
Well, I think there are a lot of voters for whom the trust comes from the actions that you actually take. Many have have understandably been disappointed by politics and the promises that have been made by many before me. Now my opportunity is actually to deliver as the next mayor of the city.
I was struck by a tweet that came out last night on X from Bill Ackman, who was one of your biggest opponents in the campaign. Billionaire, spent a lot of money trying to defeat you, but he did congratulate you and say he wants you to call on him to help New York. What are you going to call on him to do?
Well, I appreciated his words, and I think what I find is that there is a needed commitment from leaders of the city to speak and work with anyone who is committed to lowering the cost of living in the city, and that's something that I will fulfill.
Thanks for coming in this morning.
Please subscribe, hit the like button, and let me know what you guys think in the comments about him and his campaign, and we'll see you guys on the next one.